With DC having such a long history, there are bound to be some moments that we want to forget. Not because they're bad, but because they make us feel things deep within our soul. Things we haven't felt for ages. Because whether we admit it or not, we care about these fictional characters, and when they're in pain, we're in pain. But I'm a sadistic bugger, so those tearjerker moments are what we're exploring today. Let's do it. In at 10, Shazam's admission. During a crossover between DC's beloved Batman and Shazam, Billy ends up trying to help Batman stop Scarecrow, but does something reckless in the process, resulting in Batman reaming him out for it, saying, quote, "Scarecrow is one of the most dangerous people on the planet. If he'd released that toxin into the airstream, all of Gotham would have been," but gets cut off by Billy in one of the most tear-jerking admissions in comics. Quote, "I know. Shazam! I'm sorry, okay? I'm just a kid. I don't know what to do. I never know what to do. I have all this power and most of the time I'm just messing up or punching crocodiles or something. I feel like I'm wasting it, like I was never supposed to have it, but I don't know. I do have it, so I just want to help. I need to help." Honestly, it was a very emotional scene. I don't know if Batman knew about Billy being a kid before this or not, but you can just sense how guilty Billy feels about everything. He's just a kid that wants to help. And at 9, Jason Todd. Jason Todd died by voters calling in to decide whether he would live or die, and his death was tragic for many reasons. Not only did most deem the vote unfair and cynical, but felt like it was a little too dark. However, for many, Jason had never been more interesting than he was right before he died, and it was his death that caused an increased sense of actually having a good character that eventually made him popular enough to come back. Jason would most likely not be as loved as he is today if he hadn't have died, because his death is like one of the biggest moments in DC history, and outside of that, it made him the character he is today. The iconic images of Batman holding his impressively intact corpse are one that have gone down in comic history, and he was also seemingly the first person to stay dead in comics and really set the stage for actual stakes now that characters wouldn't come back. He eventually did, but it was still an emotional death to read and something that I would hate to go through. And at 8, Flashpoint's ending. Flashpoint, a timeline of Barry Allen's own creation where his mother doesn't die and he thus doesn't become the Flash. Oh, and don't forget the fact that Aquaman and Wonder Woman are at war. And at the very least in the animated movie, this resulted in them destroying the world, literally destroying the planet. Barry has to run back in time to stop himself from saving his mother, letting her die just so that he can save the planet. But in this case, Flash literally outruns the destruction of a planet and does so in order to let his mom die. Like, holy crap, that's insane. Like, I don't know if I'd have the actual strength to do that. So to me, it's pretty ridiculous that Barry first, while in emotional turmoil, is able to outrun the destruction of the world, that's fast, and then has to sacrifice his mother. Both emotionally and physically surviving this is damn impressive. Like, he should have either exploded with the rest of the world or not have been strong enough to sacrifice his mother. I wouldn't have been able to do it. Either way, she dies, right? So like, my thought is like, at least keep your dad out of prison and give him like another decade or so, right? Damn, that was painful. And at 7, the death of Barry Allen. After being put on trial for killing Professor Zoom, Barry Allen retires and joins Iris in the 30th century. After only a few weeks of happiness though, the crisis on Infinite Earths intervenes, and Allen is captured by the Anti-Monitor and brought to 1985. According to the Anti-Monitor, the Flash was the only being capable of traveling to other universes at will, so he had to capture him so that he couldn't be free. Allen escapes and foils the Anti-Monitor's plan though to destroy the Earth with an antimatter cannon, creating a speed vortex to draw the power in, but he dies in the process as the power becomes too much for his body. It has been said that Allen travels back through time and becomes the very same lightning bolt that gave him his powers, but later it was also strongly implied that the soul of Barry Allen resides in the Speed Force, the mystical source of Valhalla open to all dead speedsters, and the place from which the living ones draw their powers. After Allen's death, Kid Flash Wally West, his nephew and sidekick, ends up taking up the mantle of the Flash. A heartbreaking moment for any longtime fans of Barry Allen who now had to accept a new character in the role. And at 6, Catwoman and Helena. With the 82-issue run that is the 2002 to 2008 Catwoman monthly series, Selina Kyle was dragged through the mud. After killing Black Mask in cold blood, after discovering that Zatanna had mind-wiped her in order to set her on the right path, Selina wound up with a baby when DC's titles jumped forward 1 year in time following Infinite Crisis. She had given up on the Catwoman mantle and decided to go legit when her secret identity is revealed, and Selina realizes that it would be impossible to raise a daughter in that environment. Enlisting the aid of Batman, she fakes the deaths of herself and the baby and places the child up for adoption. The real gut-wrencher comes when she turns to Zatanna and begs her to mind wipe her again to erase all the memories of her daughter, to which Zatanna refuses. Selina is one of the most grounded, independently sufficient characters in modern comics, and to see her break down like that was absolutely brutal. Having to give up a child is never easy. Halfway through into number 5, Ripped Letter. During the events of Flashpoint, both in the comics and in the animated movie The Flashpoint Paradox, Barry brings back a little souvenir for Batman. But instead of a "I survived my trip to a different timeline" t-shirt, it's actually a letter from Bruce's father, who was alive in the Flashpoint timeline. It's the only contact that Batman has ever had with one of his parents since they died. It would be a shame if something happened to it. Oh wait, that's right, Thawne decides to rip it to shreds so that it couldn't even be reassembled. It also didn't help that Thomas was the reason Thawne was killed in the Flashpoint timeline, so yeah, this was certainly a way to get back at Thomas, even though he was dead this time around. But I mean, like, who cares? It was super unnecessary for Reverse Flash to do this, but it was still quite an emotional moment for both Bruce and the readers, which is also confusing since in the Dark Multiverse story, Reverse Flash actually saves both Bruce Wayne and his parents in order for there to be no Batman to oppose him in Reverse Flash's perfect universe, but this seems like another good way to stick it to Batman, who can never really be happy. And at 4, Clark says goodbye. As if the cover alone wasn't a dead giveaway that All-Star Superman number 6 would hold some truly teary-eyed scenes, Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely bombarded readers with emotion through one of the most potent stories in Superman's history. The last few pages of the issue sees a younger Clark speaking at Jonathan Kent's funeral, where he is witnessed unknowingly by his future self. The teardrops come once Ma and Clark are back on the farm, and young Clark is questioning the point of his powers if he couldn't save his dad. Of all the times that Jonathan Kent has died in the comics, or even in film for that matter, All-Star Superman number 7 nails it right on the head in terms of genuine emotion. Morrison serves us the best incarnation of the Man of Steel, unrelentingly human. Getting close to the end, and in number 3, Ralph finds Sue's body. I think that in general, Identity Crisis number 1 may be the saddest DC comic ever. There is not one moment of joy within these pages, but when Ralph Dibny, the elongated man, found his wife and soulmate Sue Dearborn dead in their home, burnt to a crisp, you're a soulless bastard if you didn't wipe a tear from your eye. Firstly, seeing Ralph's rubbery mouth drop open because he's too emotional to literally keep himself together while kneeling desperately in the rain clutching Sue's body is a great image of itself, but ow. And then right next to that panel, there's a close-up of a positive pregnancy test and a note that says, "Daddy, 2 lines equals positive." That's cruel. Identity Crisis is definitely the saddest comic event ever, but this moment takes the cake for the most depressing moment in the history of all the Crisis events. As a person who loves love and thinks that it's one of the best things in the world when you have it, this is literally my worst fear. I would have hated to be in Ralph's shoes in these moments. Like, I can get behind like stretching myself at will, that seems like it would be fun, but having to deal with this, no thank you. Penultimately, in at number 2, Aquababy. In quite possibly the most messed up death in DC Comics history, we meet Arthur Curry Jr., aka Aquababy. Trust me, I wish I was kidding. Up until 1977, the notion of straight up killing anyone off for real in comics was a rare notion. But Adventure Comics number 452 changed that idea entirely. Black Manta kidnaps Aquababy and places him in a chamber that slowly fills with air, suffocating him slowly over time. Because you know he's Aquababy, not a normal baby, so instead of water it fills with air, yeah. Manta forces Aquaman and Aqualad to fight each other to save Junior's life, but by the time they're done, it's too late. When the fight ends, Aquaman's son is dead, Aquaman and Aqualad's relationship is ruined, and Mira now mourns her infant son. This event actually ends up leading to the divorce of Aquaman and Mira, which given who played her in the Aquaman movies, I feel like he dodged a bullet there. But again, like I said, love. And the love you have for your own child is incredible unless you're a monster. So being unable to save your son would be an absolute atrocity in my mind. Like, I wouldn't be able to deal with that. That's no. And finally, into number 1, Blackest Night. With Jeff Johns at the helm, the lore of the Green Lantern Corps in 2000 grew exponentially, introducing the emotional spectrum of light and 6 other Lantern Corps that were established across the universe. All of this was in preparation for one of the most emotionally charged events in the DC Universe's history, Blackest Night. Without going too deep into things, a creature called Necron reanimates the dead, humans and superheroes alike, and tries to eliminate all life from the universe. It's creepy, right? But here's where it gets really messed up. Any character that was brought back to life is also subject to Necron's control. To give you an idea, Superman, Green Arrow, Wonder Woman, Superboy, and Bart Allen are all brought back and under Necron's control, who, at this point, is manipulating Batman and vomiting Black Lantern rings. Watching heroes fight against their friends is hard enough, but when readers realize the majority of the core Justice League and Titans just became zombies, this became an instant page-turner, and would surely be difficult for anyone in that situation. Like, yeah, they're zombies, but in a world with zombies and a man who can travel through time and other realities at will, you'd think that there'd be a way to stop them from being zombies and back to being normal humans and alive. So you wouldn't want to put them down again, but you kind of have to. It's a turmoil for sure. That's all the time we have for today, friends. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been in Showerman Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video. If I'm able to see, because they're all the tears.